Good day, everybody. My name is Brad Steele. I'm the Senior Director of Unified Communications at the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and this is the NASTD IT 101 series. NASTD is the National Association of State Technology Directors, and it is made up of technology professionals serving state and local government. It is a member-driven organization whose purpose is to advance and promote the effective use of information technology and services to improve the operation of state government. When I was president a few years back, I was looking at the articles of our Constitution, and Article 1, Section 2, under Purpose and Goals, lists the purpose of engaging in programs for the training, education, and development of technology professionals from all areas of state government. Looking at our organization, we do a lot of networking, we do a lot of information sharing, but there was no direct education. So I started putting together what I call IT 101 videos, where we help to educate the members of our organization on specific technologies or strategies. And I ask an industry leader, part of our corporate affiliate council, 10 questions about a technology or service. And if you haven't seen the videos we put together in the past, I ask you to refer back to the NASTD website. And at the very bottom of the page, the opening page, you'll see the link to the YouTube channels where you can find all the videos we've done in the past. So today's subject is mobile threat defense. And for this conversation, we reached out to Zimperium, and we are in touch with Dan Butzer. Dan has held individual and leadership roles in system engineering, architecture, system operations, and enterprise application development over the past 25 years. For the past 3.5 years, he has worked at Zimperium as a system engineer, and most recently as the Americas System Engineering Director. Dan spends his time helping organizations protect mobile devices and applications from malware, network threats, phishing, credential theft, fraud, and app and device tampering. Dan earned a BS in electrical engineering from The Ohio State University. I hope I said that right. And maintains CISSP certifications from ISC2. Dan and his wife Natalie are avid college and NFL football fans and enjoy a nice walk to the stadium to see the Titans play on game day. So we already have one thing in common. Those of you who know me know what that is. So at this point, Dan, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Brad. It's great to be here.
Excellent. And, I gave all of that really good bio, lots of good information, lots of good stuff there. But this is the part where I ask one fun fact about you that the audience may or may not know.
Well, they probably don't know, but living here in Nashville, music is a part of our life everywhere. And my wife and I happen to live in one of the really artist-focused communities in East Nashville. So my neighbors are the everyday people that help bring music to the world. They're the songwriters, they're the session musicians, they're engineers, recording folks. They're literally they may not be the names that you'll ever hear, but they're a big part of how this happens. And I had the privilege of working on a project which came about from one of the Copyright Acts from Congress, and they developed the Mechanical Licensing Collective. So I actually got to work with a partner and help them on some of the infrastructure that now sends the paychecks to my friends and neighbors as royalties come in. So stream away and know that your streaming service is right with everyone, and all of those people who work really hard to bring you wonderful art in the form of music can continue to earn a living and continue to do that for you and give that pleasure to you.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for doing that. And that's another thing we have in common. And I think we mentioned this on our prep calls, but I am an avid musician. And, maybe when I retire, I'll throw some recordings out and you can, I can benefit from your previous work there.
Happy to help. I'll show you where to go sign up.
There you go. All right. So our topic for today is mobile threat defense, and obviously, those of us in the states are dealing with cellular devices, and whether they be tablets or phones, and it has really become part of the everyday thread of what we do and what we work on. Especially post pandemic. Folks working remote, in transit a lot, etc., are really reliant on those cell devices. So, just real quick, tell me, what is mobile threat defense, and how is it used?
So the easiest way to think about mobile threat defense is it's there to protect the devices and the tablets and the information that they access and you as the user against threats that are placed in front of the devices. And they can range from device and network application, phishing, all sorts of things that can really either interfere with the operation of the device or it can affect the data. And, we started out thinking about these mobile devices, mobile phones, as something to speak on and maybe send text messages. But when you think about what we've been through with the pandemic, we did work anywhere and we were connected all the time. And so these little computers are with us for most of us nearly 24 hours a day. I know that at the end of the day, mine sits, where I can reach it. Sometimes to my wife's chagrin, but, and things pop up. And so it's present all the time and has access to critical data. And a lot of the time, we're not really in work mode when we interact with them. But the phone can still interact with our work world. It can still get to data. It represents an on ramp to really, really important stuff for us personally, as well as potentially impacting our agency for whom we work and the clients of that agency, our constituents.
Excellent. And so, how does that relate into the states? Is there anything specific that we really would use it for?
Yeah, there really are a couple of different things to think about here. So first of all, you've got devices that are issued by the agency, so government furnished devices. Those types of devices are sometimes issued to be used exclusively for government business, and sometimes they allow you to have some personal use of it too. It's just like the laptop that our companies issue us. It has a heightened level of access into critical information, but we are occasionally allowed maybe the day before Thanksgiving, maybe we go and we get a last minute something, whatever. And so it's like incidental use. So we have these devices that are issued to us, but then sometimes too, various organizations will allow you to use your own personal device to access your email, for example, and sometimes even additional applications. So you've got the case of something that's really under the control of the agency and something that's under the control of you, the user. And there's every shade of gray in between those two. And so it's necessary to figure out how to take care of all of those different use cases while we respect the fact that this device is with an individual close to 24 hours a day. If it's not at your ear, or if you're not looking at it, where is it? It's probably in your pocket, your briefcase, your purse, on your nightstand. So there's a very careful balance that you have to protect the privacy of the person that's holding the device. And then again, there's organized threats of every type that are coming after us. They're trying to get our banking information. They're trying to phish us. They're trying to keep me from having that turkey sandwich at the airport between flights by putting down a QR code. And I order my sandwich. I'm waiting for it to come, and then my plane's coming. I never get it but my charge went through because that QR code was fake. That wasn't the real menu. It was a fake menu. So there's all sorts of these things that happen. And then there's even a further model, which is called the citizen secure model. And that's where things like groups like Boston, they provide this technology for free to their citizens and make it available to them. And so you've got a whole different privacy view of that. So a lot to consider as you're doing this, but all of these are valid use cases and ones we deal with every day.
Okay. So, my next question has to do with, kind of the thought that we already have some of this in place, right? those of us using Microsoft have Intune available to us and other things like that. So what does mobile threat defense supplement and what does it replace within our environments?
It's a great question. So mobile threat defense and mobile device management. So MTD, mobile threat defense, mobile device management, MDM, sometimes called enterprise mobility management, actually work hand in hand. And most of the MTD vendors in the industry have deep integrations with the popular MDMs. And that's really important because they focus on different things. The MDM is focused on asserting policies, setting rules, and it has some degree of detection of threats. Unfortunately, the threat landscape is a lot more sophisticated than it first was when MDMs were first introduced. And so there are some extremely high quality tools out there now that are designed specifically to help you hide from an MDM the fact that you have the device rooted at a heightened level of risk. Magisk, Zygis, Shamiko, they're real popular on the Android side. And so those are things that you have to think about. What's had to happen is we've had to raise the bar on how we go about detecting all of the different nature of threats. And a lot of the threats come from applications. We have no idea that we download an app and we have no idea there's malware in it. And even the app developer may not know there's malware in it because of supply chain attacks. So it's important to know that these things work together because you've got to up the game and have something on the device that is continuously keeping up with the threat landscape and able to signal the MDM and say, hey, this device has just gone from a threat landscape of low or medium to a threat posture of high, and some policy-defined action should be fired at this point. So don't think of them as one replaces the other. They actually work best when you use them together.
Okay, excellent. So how do we procure this? Is there an appliance? Is there some piece of equipment that we buy? Is it a cloud-based product? How does that work?
So it's a great question. So, from a procurement perspective, and I live in the engineering world, so normally I have a account executive and I say, here you go, AE, but I'm going to kind of answer technically how it's procured and what the model is. So you really can think of it like, in one way, you can think of it like mobile EDR, if you will. So we all know the EDR vendors, the CrowdStrikes, the Sentinel ones, the Cybereasons, Trellix, on and on and on. So we're all familiar with those. So however your agency procures that type of technology, it would be the same kind of sort of class of thing within the approach to procurement. Now, the way it's delivered is it's delivered in the form of a small application that goes on the device, and typically that is deployed by the mobile device manager. And depending on the MDM's capability, it may be able to be deployed silently, or it may require some user interaction or prompting to do it. In the case of BYOD, you're the total administrator of that device. So you might be prompted, for example, by your email system. Hey, you want to continue to watch email, you have to set a PIN, and you have to go ahead and install this software and tap here to activate it. So it's really designed to be very easy for the end user to do. There's also a back-end system which is there to deal with policy, to change the device, to understand, a given threat, what's its level, what should be reported, and to collect forensics. And the key is a lot of these systems out there, there's two different approaches. There's an approach where you send a whole bunch of stuff back to the cloud, which kind of gets a little concerning for folks, especially on a private device, because once it goes to the cloud, once it's left the phone, how can you be sure where it goes? And then there's the approach where all the detections and stuff happen on the device. And that's the approach I prefer. Let's do all the work on the device, and then we'll decide what we're going to send up to the cloud. Now, what's the cloud? Well, just like any other application the government uses within a cloud, you've got a variety of different models. The first one that comes to mind, of course, is GovCloud. So AWS and Azure have GovCloud instances limited to governmental agencies and vendors that are servicing those. You've got private clouds, you've got shared clouds. There's even, like a public shared and public private cloud model. There's a GovCloud shared and private cloud model. And then for our friends that are in the, as we think of them as the TLAs, the three-letter agencies, and some of them are four-letter, and police agencies from friendly countries worldwide, there's also an on-prem model. And some of those on-prem models do extend into state and local government because, particularly for their police forces, where they want to make sure they have requirements because of the nature and custody of the information that they have that all on-prem. So we offer all three. So GovCloud, um, dedicated or shared with other government agencies, public, dedicated or shared, and then on-prem. Different companies have different choices. We believe here where I am, we'll let you pick. That's actually one of our key points. It's about choice for the agency, how they want to work, how they want to manage privacy. The technology should bend to what you need to do, not the other way around.
All right, well, you have your sales hat on for 1 second. What's the cost model? How do we pay for these things?
Well, again, I'm not going to give you a number. Again, that's for my friendly salesperson, and the only person that I get to ask that question to is my personal minister of finance, and she's away from the house at the moment. But the way it's done is it's done like any other EDR. It's done per device, and in some cases, it's hard to predict that. So enterprise license agreement models are put in place, ELA models. Some of these things are estimates. For example, you've got things like Secure Boston, which is distributed to the for free to the citizens of Boston, and you've got Secure Boston and Dallas Secure and NYC Secure and Michigan Secure, and there's a whole bunch of them. So there's different models that fit. And there's even different models that you get into when you're protecting mobile applications and putting these defenses into applications. So more than a few of you probably are running a banking app that's actually protected by our technology inside the banking app to make sure people can't steal your money, which is really a good thing. But typically it's per device. Those of you that have got Android, you're like, well, there's two sides to Android, right? There's the work side and the personal side. It's one device. So it figures that out. So just basically per user per year on a subscription.
All right. All right, so I've made the decision. We're going to roll this out. We're going to get going. What do I need to know? What information do I need to gather? What do I need to have available? And how do we get started?
So the first thing that I'm going to realize is most of us are living with a cacophony of consoles, tools, and things. And here we are going, oh my gosh, I'm going to add another one. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is have a conversation about what you've already got and understand what the integration points are into those things that you already have. Because ideally, if you already have a framework that you're monitoring and watching threats as they're occurring within your other devices, we want to leverage that framework and become an information source to that framework rather than hey, we have to hang another big TV in the NOC to have this data on it. We're running out of wall in the NOCs. Each time we add a tool, we put up another TV in there.
So you've been in our NOC. No, I'm sorry.
Been in more of them than I care to say. But we want to understand. So what's your MDM? What's your EDR strategy? How are you protecting your PC workstations? Is it BYOD? Are you furnishing the device? What devices do you support? Android, iOS, both? Are they supervised devices if you're furnishing them? If they're Android, are they owned and locked down in DO mode? What's your SIM strategy? What's your source strategy? We're going to ask a million questions, and you're going to roll your eyes and look at us and go, why do you need to know all this? Because it all works together. And then we're going to ask, how do you do email? Like, why that? It's like, well, you told me you have BYOD. I'm guessing that you probably let people access email. Usually you get the nod and go, I need to understand what your email tooling system is, because that can also be a way to cause the software to be installed and enforced. Hey, you can't get your email unless you've got this. And by the way, it's going to protect you too. Like before I order that turkey sandwich in the airport, I have my phone with MTD on it and I can point it at, I know right away if that QR code is a problem or not. Okay, so it also protects us. I'm comfortable doing my home banking on my phone. Why? Because I know that it's being protected. I know that nobody else is watching me. Nobody's harvesting my logins and passwords. So I ask a lot of questions. And then depending on the circumstance, sometimes people want to try it. We've got we can scale our tryouts to things that can go and take A very long period of time if you want. If you want to like do a pilot rollout and stuff, we do stuff like that. Other times people look at it and go, hey, I'm just going to get started. What's the fast path? We're going to give you a console. We're going to show you a way you can QR code activate some stuff and start experiencing it that day. So we scale up and down to the complexity of the problem, the scale of the distribution, the rollout that you're looking at, and we help you plan that. And we're experienced in organizations that go from a few hundred devices to organizations that are up well into the millions, all the way to applications that are 60, 80, 100 million users on the application. So we start by listening. Boy, I talk a lot for a guy that thinks listening is important, but that's the key. We start by asking a few questions and really trying to understand your environment. And then we can propose the right way to go about it.
Excellent. And of course, my home phone would start ringing right in the middle of your answer there, so I apologize for that. Um, so what value does mobile threat defense bring to states that are just getting started or advancing their zero trust or defense in depth framework?
It's a really, really good question. And you use the words defense in depth because we really do need to we'll look at all of the different vectors for the entry of unwanted content, malware, or credential harvesting within our environment. You mentioned, zero trust. One of the things that's really interesting is we are all accustomed to getting SMS messages for, a 6-digit number to log in. And that's come under quite a bit of concern given the prevalence of SMS stealers. And there are some pretty good papers. You can search for SMS stealer mobile and you'll find those out there. I'm familiar with a couple of pretty good papers there. And so we've moved more and more to a soft token on the phone, right? And so there's different generators that'll give us those numbers, and you've got authenticators from Microsoft and Google and Okta and
Mhm.
RSA and on and on and on and on. But if somebody can watch the screen and manages to harvest your credential, what good is a token on a screen they can watch? They can log in, and in some cases, these numbers show up while the screen is locked. So it's important to remember, if we're going to place this device in the chain of trust, then we need to understand what the state of this device is. And that's what mobile threat defense does. It gives you that information so that you can make a decision whether to go ahead and say, I think I want to maybe consider this a little bit more risky and I want to add another challenge, or I want to invite the user to do something different before letting something happen that they might regret personally, like somebody rips off their bank account, maybe tricks them into signing up for something that they didn't expect to through a phishing site, or potentially have a credential stolen that is used to, cause great harm to their employer or to their citizens.
Okay. All right. And while this is a security product, and I understand that, I still have to ask the question, is there any security concerns with implementing this type of solution?
I'd say there are, because I include privacy and security. And one of the first things that we recommend someone considering this do is consult their privacy policy. And depending on the scale of their rollout, consult their privacy officer. Because, and I do this, I'll admit I do it somewhat selfishly, because we do all of our detection on the device. My competitors don't. And so I'm not going to get any more salesy than that. But I need to be able to prove to you that we can do what we do, understanding all of the things that are going on using a behavioral heuristic engine without compromising the privacy of the user. And so to me, that's really important. I'll give you a great example. Let's say that you have you want to browse to a website and you accidentally type a name a little bit off and you wind up browsing to something adjacent to it. There are a lot of people that do DNS squatting for things like that. But it's still pretty obvious from that URL that it is a site for a particular medical condition. Is there anything more private to us as people than our medical? We unfortunately, gray hair, that's life, right? We all have to see the doctor at some point. And we really don't want that showing up on that 6 foot brand new screen in the operations center. Oh, look, so and so is browsing. They must have this.
Yeah.
No. So you want to be able to detect that, but you want to be able to decide what you do and more importantly, what you don't collect. And that to me is really important because you've got to do this. Security is great, but if we have to give up our privacy to have it, boy, that's a pretty rough trade-off. That's one I'm not comfortable with, and most people I talk to aren't comfortable with it. So we need to make sure we're planning for that, and that we choose technologies that can give us security without making us sacrifice any more um, privacy than like our kids do when they put stuff on social network that I won't get into that, but that's a different
Yeah.
topic.
Yep. Uh, all right. Well, I told you when we set this up that this was going to be relatively painless, but I'm down to my last question. My last question is always the same because I'm not as bright as some people think I might be. What did I forget to ask you? What else do I need to know?
Oh, I'd say that the biggest thing is just know that you're carrying not a phone. It's not a laptop. It doesn't work the same as a laptop. It's a little bit harder in a lot of ways, but it can get to everything. And remember, sometimes we get up at 3 in the morning, we go get a drink of water, we look at our phone and we're not quite awake. This is with you 24 hours a day. And it is often the least secured part of the enterprise. Now, unfortunately, and all the statistics show this, so many sites now that do phishing and other types of things, the first step to a threat, behave differently. If you're a mobile user, you're going to get the attack. If it's a desktop or some type of analytic tool, you're not going to. It's going to look like a normal site or just go to Google. So the main thing is we can't ignore this. We have to take care of it. We've got to do it in a way that helps our employees do their jobs, meet the mission of the organization, and respect not only the privacy of our constituents, but the privacy of ourselves. And that is the key. You don't have to give up privacy to have security in the case of mobile if you do it right. And that's what I'm here to help people do.
Well, I know that with phishing attacks and things like that, one of the biggest things is those little typographical errors, those little things. Uh, you wake up at, like you said, wake up at even at 6 in the morning when you're waking up to go to work, and you pick up that phone
Before
and
that first coffee, right?
and you don't notice that it's not the Microsoft. Uh, it's not Microsoft.com. It's Microsoft dot it's C0M or whatever it is, and you're now clicking on a link into some other world.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I mean, it's amazing. We carry these computers in our pocket, and we think that they're just fun devices, but they're not. They're really high powered computer devices that can get into the same problems as this laptop that I'm working and talking to you on right now. So
I'll offer one last thing here as we're getting near the end. I visit people all over the country, and I happen to live about 15 minutes from the airport. And so I get to the airport, I jump in a taxi, I'm headed home, I'm very happy. And the driver often says, "So what do you do?" And I said, "Well, I do security for mobile phones." And this was a very sweet woman, a mom, and she said, "Wow, I wish I'd know about you before." She goes, "They got me for about $500."
yep,
And she said, "I didn't have $500 to lose."
right.
And so I've met people who have lost money they didn't have to lose, and it's heartbreaking. And so, I encourage everyone, take it seriously. Um, and remember, we all type funny things before that first cup of coffee, thinking that it can happen to anyone. And if you think those QR codes are hard to make, just go to QR code generator
Yep.
and you can make a menu and you can start collecting money for turkey sandwiches.
There
There you
you go.
go.
All right. Well, thank you again. This has been, as usual, I'll say that I always learn things while I'm having these calls. Hopefully, everybody else that listens to this will learn something as well. Um, and if you have any other questions about this, please feel free to reach out to me, Brad Steele, at brad.steele@mass.gov, or you can reach out to Dan Butzer from Zimperium through the NASDD site. You can reach out to our Zimperium partners, and they'll help you out. So thank you again, Dan.
Thanks, Brad.
And just so you know, our annual event in August is in Nashville. So
Good.
we'll be in your neighborhood, so you'll have to make sure you stop by, and maybe we can sing a song together.
That sounds like fun.
Awesome. Thank you again, folks. And please, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, please follow and like and do all of that good stuff so that we can get a good name for our YouTube channel. All right. Thank you very much again, Dan, and have a great day.